Hey, 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 what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Speaking with Judgment. I am once again joined by my good friend Trey. Trey, what's going on? How are you feeling tonight? How's things going in Cincinnati?
Things are going well in Cincinnati. It's going well, Cincinnati. I'm doing well tonight. Just got done watching a great game 5 of the NBA Finals. The NBA season has come to an end, but I'm doing real well, Jonathan. Doing really good. Just excited, man, for this show tonight. We're gonna talk some NBA basketball, NBA Finals.
Yes, we got a lot. We got a lot to get into actually tonight. As you just said, was a great game. It was close to the end. The Miami Heat, although they couldn't force a game 6, they never quit, and that's been the Miami Heat for you all season, right? They're not a team that quit. They never give up on themselves. But again, this is where I go back to what I've been saying. The Denver Nuggets were clearly the better team. Um, like I said before, they were no match. The Miami Heat were no match for the Denver Nuggets. So, congratulations to the Denver Nuggets on winning their first ever NBA championship. It's the first time ever. Can you believe that, Trey? That this team has won an NBA championship. It's never been done before. And this particular group was special. They were special
Yeah.
after 56 years of existence, including the last 47 in the NBA. The Denver Nuggets can finally say they are champions. It's been a long time coming for the city. It's been a long time coming for that franchise. And finally, after those fans waited for so many years to see this happen, it has it has actually happened. And I know for a lot of fans, it feels kind of surreal, right? That
Yeah.
the Nuggets are NBA champions. Talk to me a little bit about this series because to me, Jokic was the most dominant player on the floor. Jokic, it's one thing to lead your team, but it's another thing to elevate your game to the next level on the biggest stage because that's what he did. He
Yeah.
basically elevated his game to superstar status and pretty much built his legacy in this NBA finals.
Yeah, certainly. I thought that Nikola Jokic showed that he is currently the best player in the NBA. He is definitely the best big man in the NBA. And it's funny, Jonathan, coming into the NBA playoffs this year, fresh off an NBA MVP, I would have taken Embiid over Jokic. There were people out here that said Embiid was better than Jokic. And so I can admit now, after the playoffs, after seeing Nikola Jokic dominate the NBA playoffs the way that he dominated Karl Anthony Towns in the first round. He dominated DeAndre Ayton in the second round. He had his way with Anthony Davis in the Western Conference Finals. He had his way with Bam Adebayo in the NBA Finals, and he won NBA Finals MVP. And without a doubt, he was the best player on the floor in the NBA Finals. And so, honestly, I feel like at this point, we have to consider him not only the best player on the Nuggets and in the Western Conference, but he's the best player in the NBA currently, and he's definitely the best big man in the NBA. And his performance in the playoffs this year, Jonathan, validates those two MVPs that he won in the last 2 years. You know, everybody had questions about Jokic, like, okay, he's winning MVPs. Can he lead a team to an NBA championship? His performance in the playoffs this postseason validated those two MVPs that he won in the last 2 years. And I believe he's the current best player in the NBA as we speak, heading into next season.
Jokic, the Serbian superstar and two-time NBA MVP, can now add to his impressive resume. And I understand that he's a beloved figure in his native homeland, but we can certainly sit here and say now that he is Denver's very own. He is Denver's very own. He is the face of that franchise. He is the face of that city. And I think it's fair to say that he is one of the most beloved figures in Colorado sports history. And by the time it's all said and done, you can say that he will go down as the greatest sports figure in Colorado history. He finished game 5 with game highs in points with 28.
Yeah.
In rebounds with 16, including 10 in the final frame.
Yeah.
That's how outstanding he was. He was absolutely outstanding. But
12 points in the fourth quarter.
Before I let you go, to me, the difference in this game was Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. was more aggressive. He was, attacking inside the paint. He was more attentive. He played a lot tougher than he has in this series because he's had his ups and downs. He's had his ups and downs. He hasn't always played at his best in this series, but I thought tonight Michael Porter Jr. was the difference, and he wasn't settling for a lot of outside shots. What would irritate me with Michael Porter Jr.? Michael Porter Jr. will pull up from beyond the arc and lunge up a shot with no defenders in front of him. Like, there's no bodies in front of you, dude. There's no one there contesting the shot. You got all this open space where you can drive to the basket and finish strong at the rim. So Michael Porter Jr. tonight, his shot selection was a lot better. He was working around the basket, getting shots inside the paint, finishing with layups, and I just felt like his game was all around better. And that was, to me, that was the difference in this game. And then Jamal Murray, of course, did his thing. The Denver Nuggets, again, they just were the better team. And then you can't talk about the Nuggets without mentioning Aaron Gordon. This is a guy who came from an Orlando Magic's team. This is a guy who had a resurgent year, in a sense. And you can say that he's been incredible as well. There's times that he's been the best player on the floor, and I mean, he's been remarkable. He's been remarkable. Gordon has been able to take advantage of mismatches. He's been getting it done on both ends of the floor. And so I thought he was big as well, setting screens and rolling to the middle of the paint, finding himself open and able to switch up and overpower the person that's contesting his shot. And that's what you saw from Gordon as well. So, I mean, it was a collective effort from this whole entire group. And the Nuggets, as I have been saying, they were just the deeper team. The more experienced team. Michael Malone is a fiery head coach. He's an exceptional head coach. This team was exceptionally well coached by him as well. So, I mean, there's enough credit to go around for everyone. It wasn't just one guy. It took an entire team to get the job done. And the Nuggets, They completed it tonight, and they are now NBA champions.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000% about the supporting cast for the Denver Nuggets. It wasn't just Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray tonight. Michael Porter Jr. had a great game with 16 points. Aaron Gordon contributed as well. KCP hit a few shots as well. I want to go back to Michael Porter real quick for a second. He had 16 points. He shot 7 of 17 from the floor. He shot 1 of 6 from 3-point range. But give him credit because he didn't settle just for threes tonight. He was able to get, into the interior. And even though he didn't have his shot, going tonight and wasn't able to shoot a high percentage from three, I thought Porter did a great job at getting into the interior, getting to back to the rim and finishing around the rim, which is why he finished 7 of 17 from the floor. So I give him a lot of credit for that because, like you said earlier, we've seen Porter fall in love with the three. And if his 3-point shot isn't falling, sometimes he can go missing. He can go MIA. But tonight, give him credit because he did not settle and continue to settle for those threes. And he shot 6 threes tonight, missed 5 of them. But the other 11 shots that he shot were more shots that were closer to the rim. So give Porter Jr. a lot of credit for that. Again, I thought Murray, he didn't have a great night from a point standpoint. I think he had 14 points, but honestly, I thought that he had a great all-around game. He distributed the basketball very well. And honestly, Jonathan, when teams win championships, you think about the players, and their stories and where they come from. I couldn't be more happy for Jamal Murray. Think about Jamal Murray 2 years ago. He tore his knee up, was out for 2 postseasons, and I know it was hard for him to watch the Nuggets in the playoffs and watch them come up short, knowing how he could contribute and help them be a championship contender. So honestly, I know Nikola Jokic put on a spectacular performance in the finals. He solidified himself as the best player in the NBA. Michael Malone solidified himself as one of the best coaches in the NBA. I thought KCP and Bruce Brown was great role players as well. Aaron Gordon, he was a star at one point in Orlando with the Magic, but I couldn't be more happy for Jamal Murray. You saw him tear up in the trophy presentation. I'm happy for Jamal. Out of everybody, I'm probably the most excited for Jamal being able to capture his first NBA championship. And he was a true Robin to Nikola Jokic being the Batman on this Denver Nuggets basketball team. So shout out to Jamal Murray, man. I just had to say it because I know he had doubts, Jonathan. I know he had doubts with that knee injury that he had. He probably didn't even know if he was ever going to play again. He didn't know if he was going to ever be able to play at a high level again. I remember Michael Malone was talking after Jamal Murray got injured and tore his knee up. Jamal Murray, I don't know if you heard this story, but he was talking to Michael Malone, and he told Michael Malone, like, man, are you guys going to give up on me? Or are you going to trade me? I'm damaged goods now. Like, I have no value anymore. And Michael Malone told him, like, you're one of us. You're not going anywhere. We're going to wrap this out with you, and I love that. So, man, I just love it for Jamal Murray being in this moment, in this situation, being able to win a championship, considering what he went through.
Yeah, this is a man that has gone through a lot, and you said it best right there. Jamal Murray has been through a lot. It took him a long time to get back on the floor, and to me, he's a comeback kid. Yeah. He's a comeback kid, and his story is very inspirational. I mean, this is something that we're going to be talking about for many, many years. And you can use him as an example and really go back and look at his journey and share this with a young person who has a lot of doubts.
Yeah.
Because this is inspirational. What this tells you is that you never give up on your dreams. You keep going, you keep pushing. And if you keep going, anything is possible. It was a long recovery for him. It took him some time to finally get back. And he did. He did. So yes, I can see the tears of joy after that game. You saw the tears rolling down his face, and that was a man who was overjoyed. That was a man who was fighting back tears and reflecting back to the days that he had that long recovery, the days where he didn't even know if he was going to ever play again, or if he did play, would he play at such a high level ever again? You know? So, I mean, all of that, all of those emotions probably was going through his mind at that time. Standing on that stage, looking at a shiny trophy in front of him. All of that, I can tell. I can't speak for him, but I can see his reaction and tell that a lot was going through his mind at that moment. And can you believe it? He's sitting here today saying that he's an NBA champion.
Yeah, and Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic became the third. They had the most points per game by a duo who that win an NBA championship in NBA history. Kobe and Shaq averaged close to 60 points per game in 2001. Kevin Durant and Steph Curry averaged 58 points per game in 2017. And Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray both averaged 56 points per game in the NBA Finals this year. So that's the third most points per game by a duo that won an NBA championship. So I can't say enough about the job that this dynamic duo has done. They really have really put themselves on the map in a major way, Jonathan. I remember going into the playoffs. We talked about Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, if Paul George was possibly going to come back. We talked about Kevin Durant and Devin Booker with the Phoenix Suns. We talked about LeBron James and Anthony Davis with the Lakers. In the East, we talked about Bam and Jimmy Butler. We talked about Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. We talked about Embiid and Harden. But we didn't really talk about Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray as much. And I feel like we kind of slept on the Nuggets and slept on Murray and Jokic specifically going into the playoffs. I remember when we were talking about like favorites, would it be a young team like the Memphis Grizzlies or like the Sacramento Kings who could represent the West? Will it be a team like the Clippers or the Suns who could represent the West? Could it be the Lakers or the Warriors, two historic franchises? And it ended up being the Denver Nuggets, and they were the number one seed going into the playoffs. We overlooked the Denver Nuggets all season long, myself included. I'm a part of it too. It's enough blame to go around. I underestimated the Denver Nuggets because they're not a flashy team. They're not really flashy, Jonathan. And so they're not a flashy team. And so I got to give credit where it's due.
And also this too, a lot of their games don't get nationally televised outside of their market.
Facts.
If you don't live in Denver, Colorado, you don't see a lot of Nuggets games.
Yeah. Agreed.
But you will see next year. There will be a lot of Nuggets games on national TV because now, of course, obviously, they're the defending champs. But from an analytical perspective, and you look at Jokic's greatness, and you sit there and you're like, wow, this dude is really, really good. So, I mean, he was worthy and deserving of the Finals MVP. And I knew he was going to win it. It was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer that he would win the Finals MVP. You look at his numbers, historical. He had an absolutely historic postseason and an NBA Finals. He was, like I said, he was the best player on the floor, the far more dominant player on the floor, and he reigned supreme throughout the entire postseason and the NBA Finals. So I knew he was gonna get the Finals MVP. He was well deserving of the award. He earned it with his play on the floor, and he basically took his game to another level this season, and just an all around performance from the Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic, and then you look at the Miami Heat and the incredible run that they had. They just met their match, and tonight Jimmy Butler was non-existent for the first half. You didn't get much out of him.
Yeah,
you needed him to step up and play much better, and he didn't. He didn't really get going until the second half. The Miami Heat, the only scorer who was in double figures early was Bam Adebayo. And then he disappeared in the second half, and then that's when Jimmy Butler turned it on. So I mean, it was a rough night for Butler. It was tough second half for Bam Adebayo, and again, I just don't think the Miami Heat were deep enough. And when you look at the Nuggets too, the Nuggets were long. They had the size advantage. They had the length. They had the athleticism, and you just weren't beating that Nuggets team. They're well coached. They're just too good on both sides of the ball. They're a very good defensive oriented team. They execute on both ends of the floor, and I mean, you saw that throughout the entire series.
Yeah, I thought that tonight, for the first 43 minutes of the game, Jimmy Butler was a complete no-show. I thought in the last 5 minutes, he started to come alive. He was able to hit a few perimeter shots, got to the free throw line. He kept them in the game late in the game. But for the first 43 minutes, Jonathan, he was a complete no-show, and he was MIA, missing in action. Like, he was nowhere to be found. And I feel like when you are a star, especially playing on this Miami Heat basketball team, a team that is full of players who are undrafted players, and you don't have a lot of margin for error, you have to get into a rhythm offensively early. You can't wait till the fourth quarter and late in the game to start to take over the game from a scoring perspective. I feel like this is one of those games where if you're Jimmy Butler, you got to come out the gate firing. Like, you facing elimination tonight. You know that you are in Denver. The Nuggets crowd is going to be going crazy. They're trying to capture their first NBA championship. Again, you don't have a lot of margin for error, and you don't have a team that's a top-heavy basketball team. You don't have a lot of stars on your team. So considering the makeup of your team and you being the best player, you got to come out aggressive. And I thought Jimmy Butler was not aggressive in the first three quarters of this game. He was a complete no-show in the first three quarters of this basketball game. And so I felt like, honestly, I thought Bam played well for the most part in this game, Jonathan. I thought, honestly, for the most part in this series, Bam played well. He's going up against Jokic. We know Jokic is better than Bam is, but I thought Bam attacked Jokic. He wasn't intimidated by Jokic in this series. Shout out to Bam. I thought Bam did a hell of a job in this series. He performed well as far as I'm concerned. I think in game 3, he shot like 7 of 21 from the floor. Very inefficient. But besides that, I thought Bam did a pretty good job in this series, considering he's going up against Jokic, and we know how difficult it can be defending Jokic from a defensive standpoint. But I thought Bam hit a lot of those mid-range shots, a lot of those teardrop shots in this series. But I don't know if Jimmy Butler was injured or what was going on with Jimmy Butler, but I feel like Bam needed his co-star in Jimmy Butler to be more effective offensively early to give the Heat a chance to win this game. They didn't shoot well from three tonight. They shot 26% from 3-point range. And we know for the Miami Heat, for them to have a chance, they have to be able to hit their perimeter shots. They didn't hit their perimeter shots tonight.
That's just it. That's just it, though. That's just it. That's where I go back to saying that the Nuggets beat them in different areas, and they beat them by dominating inside the paint. That's what the Nuggets did so well, right? They outscored the Heat in the paint. They were very effective in the painted area. The Heat was the team that was settled for more outside shots. Either they'll fall or they won't fall. And if the shots, if they weren't knocking down their shots, then we knew right then and there it would be a tough night for the Miami Heat. And it definitely was one of those games where Jimmy Butler just put up a clunker. Jimmy Butler didn't look like the Jimmy Butler that can take over games, that can set the tone early. We didn't see that from Jimmy Butler. I don't know if he forgot what tonight was, an elimination game, because you were on the brink of elimination and your team needed you to be that superstar, and you just weren't the superstar tonight. And I think now we need to stop calling him Playoff Jimmy. He hasn't earned that nickname, Playoff Jimmy, because yes, even though he's had his moments in the playoffs where he would go off and have these masterpieces and put up big numbers in big time games, he didn't do it when it mattered the most. And tonight, when his team needed him to be Playoff Jimmy, he wasn't Playoff Jimmy.
I agree. I still think Jimmy Butler's a star. I don't think he's a superstar.
He's definitely a star.
He's a star. I don't look at Jimmy Butler the same way I look at a Kevin Durant, a Steph Curry, or a LeBron James, or a Nikola Jokic, or even a Damian Lillard. But I still believe that Jimmy Butler is a star. I'm not trying to make excuses for Jimmy, but I just wonder if he's injured. Like, something just didn't seem right with Jimmy in the finals to me. Like, I don't know if maybe he was injured. I don't know if he ever really fully recovered from that ankle injury that he suffered against the Knicks in the Knicks series. But something just was not right with Jimmy Butler in the NBA Finals. We got Dylan Deeks on here. That's my guy, Dylan. Dylan, I love you. You are my guy, but don't disrespect Carmelo. Joker did what Melo never could. Please don't bring up Melo tonight. If anything, the Denver Nuggets, I hope they give Melo
I will say this. There's a lot of players that came before current players today that was part of teams that had really great teams, that had rosters that were well constructed to win NBA championships and fell well short of winning an NBA championship. And not everybody's going to win an NBA championship, and we can't measure players based on the number of championships they win, because we've seen a lot of great players in the past fall short or never win an NBA championship, yet they had the individual accolades. They had great runs with their teams, and they performed really well in the playoffs, but they just met a better team that they couldn't figure out or they just couldn't beat. And we've seen that.
Yeah, and that's Carmelo Anthony. I'm a Carmelo Anthony fan. Don't come on here disrespecting my boy Melo. Come on, man. Listen.
Karl Malone, as great as he was, the mailman, he never delivered in the NBA Finals.
Neither did Charles Barkley.
I mean, look at John Stockton. Look at Charles Barkley.
Charles Barkley, right. Patrick Ewing.
Look at Patrick Ewing and those guys.
Reggie Miller.
I mean, exactly, Reggie Miller. And he did it all with one team, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and then also,
I think there's a lot of great players out there that
yeah,
hasn't won a championship.
and
Um,
yeah, and think
that
about this, John.
that's
This is
what it
no
is.
disrespect. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is no disrespect to Jimmy Butler, but Melo lost to Kobe. Jokic just beat Jimmy Butler. I mean, come on now. Like, if like, come on now. Like, if I look to me, Kobe Bryant is one of the three greatest players of all time. My three greatest players of all time are MJ, Kobe, and LeBron. I don't care how you want to put them in which particular order, but those are my three greatest players of all time for me. MJ, Kobe, and LeBron. There ain't no shame in losing to Kobe. You lost to Kobe Bryant, the Black Mamba. There ain't no shame in losing to Kobe. Jokic beat Jimmy Butler. And I respect the hell out of Jokic. Jokic proved that he's the best big man in the NBA, and he is the best player currently in the NBA. But he beat Jimmy Butler. Carmelo lost to Kobe. It matters who you lose to as well. And it also matters who you beat when it comes to all-time players and comparing players' careers and whatnot. But I have no problem with someone saying that Jokic is the greatest Denver Nugget of all time. Just don't disrespect Melo in the process. Melo was a bona fide superstar when he was a part of the Denver Nuggets organization. Bona fide superstar and one of the greatest scorers in NBA history. Now, he wasn't able to win a championship, but some of that is his own fault. Not because of his play, but because of Melo wanting his money. Like, what people don't even really know is, Jonathan, I don't know if you know this, but the big three in Miami, it was supposed to be Melo, D-Wade, and LeBron, not LeBron, D-Wade, and Chris Bosh. Melo wanted to get his money. That's the reason why Melo wasn't in Miami with LeBron and D-Wade. So I just think, when it comes to sports, we measure a lot of players on and how we judge them on Super Bowls or how many championships a player wins. And I'm careful when it comes to comparing players and bringing up championships and Super Bowls, because a lot go into this stuff. Like, a lot goes into this stuff. Like, do championships and Super Bowls matter? Absolutely, but it's a lot that goes into it, and every situation is different. But Jokic is definitely one of the greatest players in Denver Nuggets history. And like you said earlier, I believe he has solidified himself to being one of the best sports figures in Colorado sports history with this latest NBA championship and his NBA Finals MVP.
Look, Jokic is the best player in the world right now. And like I said, deserved the Finals MVP for his play. And the bottom line about the Miami Heat, the Heat exceeded the expectations of the basketball world by making it to the NBA Finals. Because in a lot of people's eyes, they weren't even supposed to make it this far. They weren't even supposed to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right?
Agreed.
They were a team that barely got in. And they were 18 on top of that. So, I mean, if you really want to be real and be honest about the Miami Heat, they are a team that overachieved.
Oh, absolutely.
They're a team that overachieved. And when you look at their roster, they have a bunch of unheralded players who were undrafted. That's a Cinderella team.
Absolutely, it's a Cinderella team. But I do think that
no matter how you spin it.
Yeah, I do.
How you slice it. That's a Cinderella team.
They're a Cinderella team. But I do think, Jonathan, with all due respect to the Miami Heat, I do think there comes a point in time where a team maxes out. And I think this Miami Heat team has maxed out. They overachieved this year. They got to the NBA Finals. They beat the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round. They beat the Knicks in the conference semifinals. They upset the Boston Celtics and beat the Celtics in Game 7 in Boston. But I think we have reached a point in time where Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra, as great of an organization as they are, they've gotten to the finals in 2 out of the last 4 years with nothing to show for it. And I think that now, because of these undrafted players and how they were able to elevate their games in the postseason this year, I believe now you can use those undrafted players as assets and try to bring in another star to team up with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, whether it's Gabe Vincent, whether it's Max Strus, whether it's Caleb Martin. You got these undrafted players, and I believe that their stock has risen now because of the postseason run this year, right? So now you can go out there and maybe if you call up the Portland Trailblazers, they may listen if you say, hey, we got Tyler Hero, we got Gabe Vincent, we got Caleb Martin. You know, are you interested in possibly a trade and centered around Damian Lillard? And if Damian Lillard ends up in Miami with the Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, I believe that the Miami Heat should be considered the favorites in the Eastern Conference heading into next season. So I think this run by the Miami Heat, it was, even though they lost tonight, Jonathan, it was also a win for the Miami Heat moving forward because their undrafted players, they play at such a high level, their stock has risen. And now they can be trade assets in a potential deal for a star the caliber of a Damian Lillard.
Yeah, and David leaves a comment. He says Jimmy disappointed him. I'm sure you're not the only one feeling that way, David. I'm sure there's a lot of people in South Beach tonight feeling the same way, that he has disappointed a lot of people, especially with his level of play in these playoffs. And we were speaking highly of him and talking about how good of a player he was, particularly in the playoffs, because he's one of those players that usually turn his game up a notch in the playoffs, right? He plays well under pressure. He performs well on a big stage. And when the bright lights turn on, he usually shines. And I mean, that just wasn't the case this time around. And my buddy Hakeem, he has joined the show and he is watching. He says he need 2 good pieces. Yes. They're not far away. They're not far away from a championship. They're really not.
I agree. I don't think they're far away. I don't even really think they need 2 pieces. I think they need another star. Because this is the thing, Jonathan. I don't believe that Bam Adebayo is a second option on a championship team. I think Bam is a perfect third option on a championship team. And Jimmy Butler could be a solid second option on a championship team. But I think if you could trade for a Damian Lillard, could you imagine Dame time in Miami in that Heat culture? I think it would be the perfect fit in a match made in heaven if the Miami Heat could get their hands on Damian Lillard. Because I think Damian Lillard is the ultimate closer. He's a closer. And even tonight, the Heat were in the game. Nuggets didn't blow the Heat out tonight. The Heat were in this game to the final buzzer. So if you could bring in a player the caliber of a Damian Lillard, I believe that would increase the Heat's chances at being able to win an NBA championship. If you just look at the conference finals alone, Jonathan, real quick. If you look at the conference finals alone, the Lakers got LeBron and Anthony Davis. The Celtics, they have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And the Nuggets have Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. The Heat have Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. Now, Butler and Bam Adebayo are solid players, and I would consider Butler a star, and I would consider Bam a borderline star. I don't think Bam Adebayo is a consistent star, but I do believe that Bam could be the third best player on a championship team. And so if you can make a trade for a superstar the caliber of a Damian Lillard, I believe that the Miami Heat could be in this exact position next year back in the conference finals or maybe even possibly the NBA finals. So I think I don't think they necessarily need two good pieces. I think they need the right piece, and that is a superstar, the likes of a Damian Lillard.
The Miami Heat, they were fortunate to hang around in this game like they did because the Nuggets somehow dictated the game with a poor percentage in 3-point shots and in free throws. But then they still managed to win the game.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I mean, you can go back to how poorly Jimmy Butler performed in the first half. You can also look at the fact that the Miami Heat clearly had no answer for Jokic. Jokic was completely unstoppable in this series. They couldn't guard him. No one matched up really well against Jokic. Jokic was able to get any shot he wanted, and when his shots were contested, he was making difficult shots. I mean, it was just amazing to see. This is well deserved. It was 47 years in the making, and it finally has happened for the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets, again, they just wanted it more. They were the better team. It's a cute story because it's the first championship ever. It's gonna be one of those championships that we are reminisce about probably another 20 years, 30 years from now. And we will always talk about Jokic and how great of a player he is. But this Denver Nuggets team is far from being done. This Denver Nuggets team, they can win next year. Do they? I want to ask you this question. Is this team on the verge of a dynasty? Do you see it possible for this team to have this dynastic run?
That's kind of a tough question to answer, Jonathan. I try to be careful with the dynasty word. I like to see a team win at least two championships before we start throwing around that dynasty word. When I think about dynasty, 4 championships during their dynasty, I think about Jordan's Bulls. They won 6 championships during MJ's era in Chicago. I think about the Kobe, Shaq Lakers. They were able to win 3 championships during that era with the Los Angeles Lakers. And I also think about the San Antonio Spurs with Tim Duncan, with Manu Ginobili, with Tony Parker and Greg Popovich as their head coach. I think Duncan won 5 NBA championships, if I'm not mistaken. Greg Popovich was a 5-time NBA champion as well. So those are the teams I look at when it comes to dynasties in NBA history. I'm sorry if I missed anyone. I think the Lakers with Magic and Kareem, they won a few championships as well, didn't they, Jonathan? No, didn't they win a few? They won a couple with Magic and Kareem for sure. So
Yeah.
yeah. So when I think about dynasties, I think about teams that are able to win multiple championships, and I'm thinking 3, 4, or 5 or more championships. So until the Denver Nuggets win 2, I'm not ready to claim them as this team who will be a dynasty for future seasons to come. I got to see more because next year it's not going to get any easier. In the Western Conference, the Suns, they still got Kevin Durant. They still got Devin Booker. Okay? The Lakers still got LeBron and Anthony Davis. And they might sign Kyrie Irving. Who knows? The Golden State Warriors, they're going to be back in the mix next year with Steph, with Draymond, with Klay Thompson. And no matter what's going on with the Warriors, as long as they got Steph Curry and he's in his prime, the Warriors will be in the mix as a championship contender in the Western Conference. Make no mistake about it. And then, you got teams who are young, like the Memphis Grizzlies, with John Morant, with Desmond Bain, with Jackson. You got the Sacramento Kings, another up and coming basketball team with De'Aaron Fox and um and they got Mike Brown as their head coach. So I'm not ready to say that the Nuggets are going to be this team that's a dynasty quite yet, but they are a team that's going to be good next year, and they will be a team that is to be reckoned with as we head into next season. But I'm not ready to claim them as a dynasty quite yet.
You know what? You know what is very absurd to me? The fact that people say this was a boring team that won it all. How in the hell was Denver a boring team? Maybe you say that because it was not your team that was in the finals. Because to me, when I watched this game, when I watched this series, and I hear people say that the Nuggets were a boring team, I say, what the hell were you watching? What game were you watching that it was boring? Because I don't think the Denver Nuggets were a boring team. Denver was overlooked while they were dominating in the West.
Yeah,
What it is that the Nuggets were counted out, disrespected all year, and they had a bevy of players who played with chips on their shoulders throughout the playoffs.
yeah,
And to me, it was an exciting team. But I think what it is, I think why this team is so boring to many is because they're in a smaller market. Like I said earlier, they don't get a lot of naturally televised games, so a lot of people don't know the other guys on the roster outside of Jokic and Jamal Murray. And you got to remember this too. Last year, Jokic was dragging that team to the playoffs without two of his teammates, without two of his uh, uh, important teammates, which were, we all know, Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr.
yeah.
So
Well,
I mean, it's a layer of reasons and factors into why this team is boring to a lot of people. But to me, they're not boring. They weren't boring. How the hell are you a boring team when you got a guy like Jokic who is playing like a guy from another planet? I just don't know how your team could be
well,
boring.
well, Jonathan. I think the reason why people say the Nuggets are boring is because, I mean, last year we saw the Golden State Warriors win the NBA championship. They had Steph Curry, they had Klay Thompson, the greatest shooting backcourt in NBA history. And then the year before that, you had you had Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks. You had Giannis, who was a high flyer, great athleticism. You had Middleton, who was a shot maker who could hit shots and was a great closer late in games. And then the year before that, you had your beloved LA Lakers win the NBA championship in the bubble with LeBron and Anthony Davis. LeBron James is one of the greatest players in NBA history. No matter who you are, you have to have LeBron James in your top five greatest players of all time. So I think when you look at the Nuggets really don't have, besides Aaron Gordon, they don't really have a high flyer on their team. Like there's no player who on their team is a high flyer. There's no player on their team who is I would consider a sniper from 3-point range. Michael Porter and Jamal Murray can hit threes, but they're not Steph Curry or Klay Thompson. And nobody on their team has the athletic ability that Giannis has. But Jokic is the best player on their team, and he is unorthodox and he is effective, but it's not necessarily exciting to watch. So I think that's why people say the Nuggets are boring. But guess what? Boring was able to win an NBA championship this year, and they are the 2023 NBA champs. So if boring can win you an NBA championship, I would love to be that if it was my favorite basketball team or I'm rooting for my favorite team. So, I just think that it's a lot of different reasons why people feel like they're a boring team, but they were able to get it done this year. You got to give them credit.
Please forgive me if I pronounce this name wrong. I'm going to try my best. List, I think that's List. It's a Y instead of an I. So I'm going to just say List. List comments and said, I was hyped watching this game. Every game was exciting. I thought it was an exciting series. I thought it was an interesting matchup. You had two great teams to me. You had a Denver Nugget team that was the Goliath, and then you had a Miami Heat team that was the David. So I mean, you had the underdog versus the number one seed in the West. You couldn't ask for anything better, and then you had a red hot Jimmy Butler coming into the series. So you had some great stories, and you had two great teams. What it was is that it just wasn't the team that a lot of people didn't want to see. It was two teams that a lot of people didn't want to see. A lot of people wanted the Lakers and Celtics finals.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why people were so bitter. I think that's why people made the comments that they made about the series and why they said it was boring, because it wasn't the two teams that they had hoped for. And sometimes we don't always get what we want, and usually it doesn't always go the way we want it to go.
Yeah,
but it was still great basketball. It still made for epic theater, and it still was great entertainment. I mean, you can bitch about it and complain and moan about it, but I mean, it went 5 games, and you got to watch one of the best players on the planet play, Jokic. I mean, you're complaining right now, but then once the man retires and leave the game, then you'll appreciate him a bit more, and then you'll say, damn, I remember when that guy played, and, you know, he was the greatest of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, we just witnessed greatness in this series. You can't ask for anything better than that. You saw a man who elevated his level of play and who solidified his status as one of the game's greatest players, and that is Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, and I also think too, Johnson. I know people don't really want to hear this right now, and again, I don't want to downplay what the Miami Heat were able to do. They had tremendous job getting to the NBA Finals, a true Cinderella story. Great franchise led by Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley, but I do believe that the Boston Celtics would have been a better matchup for the Denver Nuggets. And I believe that the Celtics, with their talent, could have possibly took the Nuggets to a 6 or 7 game series. Maybe the Nuggets still win. But I do think that the Celtics, with their talent, with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, I think that they would have definitely threatened the Denver Nuggets more, and it would have been a much tighter series. But the Miami Heat beat the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals in Game 7. They deserve to be Eastern Conference champions, and they got to the NBA Finals. And I thought Game 5 was very entertaining. I watched that game start to finish. That was a very entertaining game to me. I felt like the Heat were in that game. They were in a position to win that game. But I thought the difference in the game was, because you mentioned it earlier, the Nuggets, they missed 23 3-point shots. They missed 10 free throw shots, but they had 60 points in the paint. So those points in the paint made up for those missed 3-point shots and those missed free throws. So give them credit for being able to score in the paint. They outscored the Heat 60-44 in points in the paint. So I thought that was the biggest difference in the game.
If you're a basketball zealot and if you follow the game closely, you appreciated this series. And I know I said what I said about it before the series even started. You heard me say I wasn't going to watch it, that, you know, I even posed a question to people on my social media, on my Facebook, and said, how many of you guys are going to watch Denver versus the Miami Heat? And a lot of people, I mean, it was mixed reactions from people. There was some people that said they wouldn't watch it because you guys know I have a Laker following. I have a large Laker following, and a lot of the Laker fans said they weren't watching it. If their team wasn't in it, They weren't going to watch it at all. Then I had other fans that said, well, you know what? We love basketball. We're going to watch it. We're going to tune in for this. Uh, we're going to watch it no matter what. This is the final. This is the finals. This is we're getting down to the finale of the NBA season. So, a lot of people did tune in for the finality of the NBA season. And I was one of those people that tuned in for it. And I'm glad I did because to me, it turned out to be a great series. And like I said, if you like basketball, you're going to watch no matter what. You're going to watch no matter which teams are in there. This was the hardest working team in the league. I'm happy for the Denver Nuggets. They definitely deserve it. A well-deserved victory for both Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. And then that too. You have arguably one of the most dynamic duels in NBA history. We just witnessed that.
Yeah.
With Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. So I mean, this was just a great. It was entertaining, and you had your storylines. I mean, it was a remarkable series. It just wasn't the two teams that most people wanted.
Agreed. And Jonathan, real quick before we get out of here, let's transition to next year, and let's think about next year. Obviously, the Denver Nuggets are going to be the reigning NBA defending champions in the West, but in the West, we still got the Memphis Grizzlies. You still got the Phoenix Suns. You still got the Lakers. You still got the LA Clippers if Kawhi Leonard can ever be healthy for a long period of time. You still got the Sacramento Kings. De'Aaron Fox was balling this year. Sabonis was also balling for the Sacramento Kings. That 1-2 punch is going to be back. And then you look at the East. You still got Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum with the Celtics. The Sixers still got Joel Embiid. They still got Tyrese Maxey. Not sure what's going to happen with James Harden yet, but they did bring in Nick Nurse as their new head coach. The Milwaukee Bucks, they got a new head coach as well. Giannis and Middleton will be back. So what is your expectations for next season? Like, who do you deserves to be the favorites in the East and in the West? Maybe your top two teams in the East and in the West heading into next season. And what is your expectations for next season before we get out of here?
Well, first and foremost, there's a lot of parity in the NBA. So it could go either way. Now, you got all these teams with so much talent. There's some teams that are stacked from top to bottom. There's going to be a major shakeup now that Chris Paul is going to be on the market. He'll be a free agent. We still don't know where he's going to go. I know he's older. I know he's 38 now, but he can go somewhere and make an impact with his veteran presence. And, he could bring some versatility and flexibility to that team wherever he lands. And then you got the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis, Chris Middleton will finally be healthy. They got a new coach now, and Adrian Griffin. They're gonna be one of the top contenders in the East for sure. Then you still got the Boston Celtics, who I think should make a play for Chris Paul, because I think they lack that leader. They lack chemistry.
Yeah.
They lack chemistry, and they don't really have a true leader in that locker room. Joe Mazzulla doesn't have control, nor does Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. Those guys are not leaders. So, I mean, you need someone like a Chris Paul, but Boston is still going to be a contender, no question about it. They will be in prime contention. They're one of the top teams in the East. The Sixers, where do you rank them? Third in the East. Nick Nurse is not a bad coach. I think Nick Nurse can come in, turn things around for that organization, and that's what they're looking for, right? A guy that can turn things around, that can get that team over the hump, right? And I think Nick Nurse has the resume to do that. He definitely has the coaching credentials. I don't know. It's going to be tough for Denver, particularly in the West, because you look at the West, man. You look at the makeup over there. You still got the Clippers. I'm not too high on the Clippers, to be honest with you, because the load management stuff to me apparently hasn't worked in their favor, because even when they get to the playoffs, they still lose.
Yeah.
They choke. They choke.
Yeah.
So the Clippers to me are not a threat to the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets are going to be still one of the most complete teams next season. The Lakers are going to be in play as well. You can't never count them out. You always got to have them in the playoff picture. They'll be around. Memphis Grizzlies, if they can get over the distractions, if Ja Morant can stay out of trouble and behave himself, they'll be a team to look out for. They'll be a different team. They're not going to bring Dillon Brooks back. They already said that they don't plan on re-signing him. He's going to be a free agent, able to walk. But you'll still have Ja Morant. You'll still have his explosive play if he's able to stay out of trouble. But here's the thing, Trey. I just thought about it. He's going to be handed a punishment. And we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out how long he's gonna be suspended for, and if he is suspended for the entire season, that puts a whole damper on your season. So Memphis might not be as effective, or a team that you really worry about if they don't have Ja Morant, because Ja Morant is that guy. He is the guy that makes things go for your offense. So without him, I mean, you're kind of in a world of trouble. I still like Denver. I still like Denver as the favorites in the West. And then, of course, you got the Sacramento Kings. You got to remember this, too. They're going to be better than they were a year ago.
Agreed.
That loss put a bad taste in their mouth. And don't think they're going to be coming back ready to play. Mike Brown was well deserving of Coach of the Year. He guided that team to the NBA playoffs. The Kings are back. They are a very exciting team to watch. They have exceptional guard play with De'Aaron Fox. Malik Monk was special last season. He showed out. So, I mean, the Kings are going to be around too, but for now, I think it's safe to say that Denver is the team to beat in the West.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you said. When it comes to the Eastern Conference, I think with the Milwaukee Bucks, they're going to have back Giannis. They're going to have back Chris Middleton. He'll get an opportunity to get back to being close to 100%. And you need Chris Middleton to be healthy in order to be a championship contender if you are the Milwaukee Bucks. So the Bucks still got Giannis. They still got Chris Middleton. They still got Jrue Holiday. They got their new head coach who they just recently hired. They will be in the mix in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, the Boston Celtics still got Jaylen Brown, got Jason Tatum, a very dynamic duo who is one of the best duos in the NBA. I agree with you. I think they should take a very, very hard look and think about trying to make a move for Chris Paul. I think he is the ultimate floor general, and Chris Paul will help the Celtics in late game situations and late game execution in the fourth quarter in the playoffs specifically. You won't need Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum to handle the basketball as much, because that would be Chris Paul's job as the floor general. When it comes to the Philadelphia 76ers, I love Joel Embiid. I like Tyrese Maxey. If I'm the Sixers, I would allow James Harden to walk. I would not give James Harden a long-term new contract. If James Harden wants to walk and wants to go back to Houston and he wants $50 million per year, I would allow James Harden to walk and move on. If I'm the Sixers, I would seriously consider moving on from James Harden. And I believe that that would help the Sixers thrive better because Tyrese Maxey could handle the basketball more. I feel like, in a way, James Harden has kind of hurt the growth of a Tyrese Maxey because James Harden always has the basketball in his hands. So if I'm the Sixers, I would try to figure out a way to get rid of James Harden and not sign him to a long-term deal. I like Nick Nurse. I think he'll have an opportunity to turn things around in Philadelphia. I do believe that he is an upgrade over Doc Rivers. I think Doc Rivers is
Yeah, I agree with you.
yeah, I think Doc Rivers. I don't think Doc Rivers is a bad coach, but I think Nick Nurse is an upgrade over Doc Rivers, and Nick Nurse is a champion as a head coach. He
Right.
won a
He brings
championship.
that championship pedigree. The thing with
Yeah,
Doc Rivers is that Doc Rivers is a great regular season coach, not a great postseason coach.
right. Nick Nurse brings that championship pedigree. He won a championship with the Toronto Raptors and Kawhi. So I think the Sixers will be in the mix. But I would
And
probably
I think Nick Nurse was also aroused with the idea of being able to coach Joel Embiid as well.
yeah. But and for me, I would say the Sixers are a top 3 team in the East, but I would favor the Celtics and the Bucks over the Sixers. Again, I can't count out the Miami Heat. I would keep the Miami Heat in the mix. If they can trade for another star, they will definitely be in the conversation for being one of those top teams in the Eastern Conference. Now, when I look at the Western Conference, I agree with you about John Morant. We don't know how long John Morant is going to be suspended for the beginning of the season next year. Depending on how long he's suspended, that will determine if the Grizzlies can be championship contenders next year. I look at the Sacramento Kings. They got De'Aaron Fox. They got Sabonis, a great young dynamic duo who will be better next year compared to what they were this year. They got a lot. That playoff series against the Warriors, even though the Kings lost in that playoff series, they gained a lot of experience and they were able to see what the playoffs are all about. I think the Golden State Warriors will be back in the mix. As long as Steph Curry is still in his prime and playing at a high level, the Golden State Warriors will be a championship contender. Make no mistake about it. I look at the Phoenix Suns. They still got Kevin Durant. They still got Devin Booker, the best scoring duo in the NBA as far as I'm concerned. They brought in Frank Vogel as their head coach, and I think Frank Vogel is going to bring a defensive mindset to that Phoenix Suns basketball team, and they're going to play much better defense. They got to get more depth. The Suns got to get more depth on their team. As talented as Kevin Durant and Devin Booker is, they need more depth on that Phoenix Suns basketball team. When they traded for Kevin Durant, they gave up Mikal Bridges. They gave up Cam Johnson. Okay, they gave up Jay Crowder. So they got to get more bodies and depth on that Phoenix Suns basketball team. But they'll be in the mix. The Clippers, if Kawhi and Paul George can stay healthy, they will also be championship contenders. But that's a big if. We know Kawhi struggles to stay healthy. So that's another question mark as well for the Clippers. And then the Lakers. LeBron and AD will be back as well. We got to see what moves the Lakers make. Will they be able to sign Kyrie Irving? Will Kyrie come to LA and they form a big three with Kyrie, with LeBron, with Anthony Davis? These are things that we have to look forward to in the NBA next season. But right now, I would say that the Denver Nuggets and the Golden State Warriors will be the favorites in the Western Conference. And in the Eastern Conference, I would roll with the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics.
Okay. Yeah.
And maybe,
I mean, it could turn out that way too.
Real quick, Jonathan, I would still throw in Miami in there because I'm not gonna sleep on what Miami was able to do this year. You can never sleep on what the Miami Heat were able to do. Like I can't disrespect Miami and overlook Miami again. So I would throw Miami in the mix as well. I think Miami's better than Philly. Me personally, I think the Miami Heat are better than the Philadelphia 76ers. That's the Miami Heat team currently constructed. I think they're better than the Philadelphia 76ers are. But those are my teams. I'm gonna say it again. In the East, I got Milwaukee, Boston, and Miami as a sleeper. And in the West, I got the Denver Nuggets and the Golden State Warriors. And my sleeper in the West, I'll throw in the Phoenix Suns.
Okay. Yeah, the Phoenix Suns, they're gonna be around too. They got a new head coach now. They're going into a different direction. We'll have to see how it all plays out for them. Did they even hire a coach yet?
Yeah, they hired Frank Vogel. Remember, the Suns got Frank Vogel.
That's right. Duh, Frank Vogel, and we all know how defensive minded he is. He preaches defense first over everything else, and I mean that's what makes him unique in a way because of his defensive mind and what he's gonna bring to that team. I think his players will relate to him. I think they will, buy into what he is selling really, really quick once he gets acclimated to the team and everything. And I think that's his byproduct to success, right? Defense. And it'll be interesting to see now if Devin Booker and Kevin Durant can actually commit to playing defense.
Yeah. But my main thing for them is if I'm the Phoenix Suns, I would trade DeAndre Ayton. I would move off with DeAndre Ayton. I don't think
DeAndre Ayton won't be back next season. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, I don't think they should keep DeAndre Ayton. They need to move off of him. And they need to get more depth. But man, this time of year, Jonathan, when the NBA season ends, I'm sad because me and you, we basketball and football guys. So we love our NFL and our NBA. So I'm sad around this time of year because
I like everything. I be watching it all.
I know you watch it all, man. But you love your NBA and NFL though, man. I know you do. But
I love my baseball too. I love my baseball too.
You love your Dodgers. You love your Dodgers.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Oh yeah, I love my baseball. Period.
Yeah, I know you love your baseball, man. But for me, I say it all the time. Like, I'm not a married man, but like I always say, whenever I do get married, if my wife want me to take her out somewhere, take her out of town for a couple weeks, and she want me to turn my phone off, this would be the time of year to do it.
This would be my time too. Yeah.
This would be the time of year to do it. There ain't no football. There ain't no basketball going on. So, whenever I do get married to my future wife, if you want to go out of town for a couple weeks and you want to have all my undivided attention, this would be the time of year to have it right now because everything it slows down this time of year.
Yep. Absolutely.
But that's right. during the summer, we still got a lot to talk about. Me and you, we're gonna talk about a lot of football, training camp.
Well, we got summer league too.
Yeah, summer league.
We got summer league. We still got the NBA draft coming up. That's gonna be interesting.
Yep. And then training camp's around the corner. It'll be here before you know it.
Yep.
It'll be here before you know it, man. You wanna scroll through some comments before we get out of here?
Yeah, let's see what we got here. Hakeem says if Joel Embiid wants to win a championship, it can't be with Philly. I don't know. I think if you have the right personnel and the right players around him, I think it's possible.
So do I. Any more comments?
That's it.
Okay. All right, man. Well, that puts a cap on the 2023 NBA season. The Denver Nuggets beat the Miami.
Although I will say I made one mistake, and I said that Nick Nurse will be aroused by the idea. I can't say that. I should have said that he will be enamored with coaching Joel Embiid. There you go.
Good one for sure. Well, yeah, that puts a wrap on the 2023 NBA season. The Denver Nuggets beat the Miami Heat 94-89 in Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Nuggets win the series 4-1. Nikola Jokic was the NBA Finals MVP. The Nuggets won their first NBA championship in franchise history. So I'm Trey Larkins. Everybody, y'all can go and follow me and follow my sports show on Wise Guys on Twitter. It's Wise Guys _H. It's also on Facebook, Wise Guys. I'm probably gonna do my recap of the NBA Finals tomorrow or Wednesday. So check it out. And me and Jonathan this summer and moving forward, we definitely gonna be on talking more, NFL, NBA news. And so I look forward to it, Jonathan. This. We got much more to talk about as time goes along. And so I'm excited about that, brother, for sure.
I agree. I'm excited about a lot of opportunities and great things to come. And you know what? We should consider doing Inside the Trenches, our show. We should consider doing that from our live stream on our pages.
Agreed. I'm down. I'm definitely down for sure.
That'll be fun.
For sure. I agree.
And we can still keep speaking with judgment, which is the show I came up with. So
yeah, for sure.
But we gotta stick to the plan, and that was to create our show together, and that's called Inside the Trenches with you and myself, which will be very fun. I mean, we will kill it on that show as we continue to get better each day.
Absolutely. Any closing thoughts?
Oh man, I just want to say that it was another great show, and I want to thank all the viewers out there for taking the time out of their night to join us for another great episode of Speaking with Judgment. It's been a lot of fun tonight, and once again, before we get out of here, I just want to say congratulations to the 2023 NBA champions, the Denver Nuggets. They are well deserved. They earned it. They won it, and congratulations to Coach Malone. Michael Porter Jr., Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Bruce Brown, and all the rest of that team for the tremendous work they've done this season and for reaching the mountaintop. It's just a great story. They reached the mountaintop of the Rocky Mountains, man. It's been
it's great for the city of Denver.
Right. It's great for the city of Denver, and they crossed the valley to get to the top of the Rocky Mountains. It's just incredible.
Absolutely, man. But I'm Trey Larkins. He's Jonathan Mathis on the Sports Judge, and I'm Trey Larkins of Wise Guys Sports. We signing off. Everybody enjoy your night. Peace.
Good night, everyone. Take care. See you guys very soon.